Hi guys, I am driving the new Cayenne S, and I've driven this car in Greece, and this is the first time I'm driving it in Malaysia, and I'm happy it is the S, because this 2.9 V6 is a fantastic engine compared to the 3-liter V6. Okay, there might be some confusion here. Let me explain. The Macan starts with a 2-liter turbo, and then they have a 3-liter turbo, and then they have a 3.6 turbo. The 3.6 turbo is a very old engine from the VAG group. Reliable, but a little bit lazy as well. And then the 3-liter turbo is alright, is okay, is good enough, but it's no miracle. Okay, the 2.9. Okay. Now we come to the Cayenne. The Cayenne starts with a 3-liter engine, the 3-liter turbo, and that is what I mentioned just now. Okay, acceptable for a 3-liter turbo to be making that kind of power, but the magic starts in the Cayenne S, which is this one with the 2.9 turbo. This is a new engine, and it is a fantastic engine, a very characterful engine, an engine that loves to rev, an engine that is fantastic in its power delivery. Anyway, how does the car drive? Beautiful. Think that this is an SUV, to have this kind of steering feel, to have this kind of, oh my god. When I drove this car in Greece, I was blown away by it. I was really blown away by how capable this car is in terms of handling, ride, control. Motorcycle with a side mirror that points to the sky. You know, if I drive behind him and I look at his side mirror, I can't see his face. It's very likely meaning that he's not looking at me either. My god, this car. Holy. I mean, that's the magic of Porsches. You jump into any one of them, you felt that you can immediately, after you settle your own driving position, you can just bury the throttle and then you can manhandle the car. It doesn't give you any fear of, will I screw it up? You know, it's just so easy to drive. Performance is just so accessible. And then when you look back, this is a comfortable 5-seater family car, SUV, that you can load a lot of stuff behind. You can bring this car to the countryside to do some mild off-roading. You can do all kinds of stuff with this car. Heavy rain, there's a little bit of flood up front, just drive your car across. It's the kind of car where in the real world there isn't any argument against it, to be honest. That is, of course, if you can afford it at the first place, okay? And my god, this is what a premium car should be, you know. An engine, transmission that is perfect, the pairing is perfect, the shift points are perfect. The steering wheel, the size of the steering wheel is lovely. Oh my god. Oh. Visibility is excellent. There's nothing. You don't need to review a car like that. You just need to tell people how it feels like. There's no room for us to be judgmental, to be honest, in terms of how it drives, because they're so good. They are just so good. You hop into one of these, you go into any other car, you immediately can tell that, wow, these guys know their shit, man. And it is this kind of stuff that if I were to give you a piece of paper and ask you to write down what makes a good car, you won't be able to write it down. But when you hop into a Porsche, you know they're doing everything right. This engine is fantastic. Lovely engine. It's so smooth, and yet it is not the type where it doesn't engage with you. You know, the response is just so immediate. When you put your foot down, there's no wait, there's no hesitation. Oh, lovely, lovely. So what's the horsepower? This, if I'm not wrong, is 440 horsepower. It makes about 500, or was it 520? I don't care. Newton meters of torque. It has plenty of power. Okay. In fact, on normal roads, a turbo will not be able to ditch you. Yeah. The turbo can only ditch you on a straight. Yeah. Okay, I need to check if I have the balance. Damn, this car is lovely. So, you might be thinking, actually, should I get a Panamera or a Cayenne? So the biggest difference now is that in a Cayenne, you're still an SUV, and you don't get as much room behind as you get in a Panamera. Okay, and the seating position of the rear second row is very different from the seating position of a Panamera. Hello, boleh check ada berapa? Thank you. Oh, okay, cukup. Terima kasih. Okay, let's blast it away. Holy moly, the way this car moves itself. Now the brakes. I see a huge caliper just now, but when you come to the braking, the slowing down of the car, that's when you are reminded you are driving something more than 2 tons. Because the way it steers, the way it accelerates, completely hides this fact that you're driving something huge. But when it comes to braking, then you'll be like, the momentum is there, the kinetic energy is there. And be careful, because it might create a false sensation that you are driving a small, very fast hatchback, but actually this is a huge car. Okay. Damn, brilliant. The seats are comfortable, the steering wheel is, the seating position is perfect, the size of the steering wheel is perfect. Porsche knows their stuff. When it comes to giving you a car, you can drive with full confidence. Oh, relentless engine. Stupid rush. Oh. Now, do I like this engine more or the engine in the C43? Now, both are forced induction. Okay, that means software alone can alter their output. Alright? And on paper, the engine in the GLC 43 makes 367 horsepower. This guy makes 440 horsepower. Yes, I know there is a difference of 73 horsepower, but I reckon that can easily be altered with a few lines of code. But in terms of how they react, in terms of how they respond to your throttle input, I think the C43 engine matches up to this in every single way. That is just as rev happy, just as nice sounding when it revs. And I'm not sure about the fuel consumption of this because this is mounted to huge cars. That one is mounted to a tiny little C-Class, and that engine is very efficient. I love that engine. In fact, the C43 engine is wonderful. Brilliant engine. Lovely. Oh, fuck. be, there's always another Malaysian there to keep you safe, slowing you down. Oh, this car drives so well. I still remember in Greece, I was diving into tight corners, and the rear wheel steer of this car, the active anti-roll bar of this car transforms the car, because they are able to combine their efforts in removing, that's the sensation that I felt, removing the sense that masses are being sent to the wheel. Basically, with these two things in the car, these two systems, it gives you the sensation that you're sending less load onto the tires. The tires don't feel that worked out, because on certain corners at certain speeds you would have expected the tires to start screaming, but that's not the case. That wasn't the case. Oh my god, this engine is brilliant. Damn. What a crazy engine, man. PDKs. Porsche Doppelkupplungsgetriebe, I believe that's what they're called. Damn, this transmission is just fast. No one does dual clutches as good as Porsche, really, man. Their dual clutch is so seamless. A bad dual clutch would be the one from Renault. You can throw that away, man. That is rubbish. Rubbish dual clutch, the one in the Renault. Damn, this is really, really good. It's so comfortable. It's so fast. The handling is so good. I believe in the R&D facility of Audi, of Mercedes and BMW, there is always a couple of Porsches being stripped out lying around. I believe so, because they are just so good. Hi guys, honestly speaking, you might not be able to tell if this is the Cayenne or the Macan or the previous Cayenne facelift. Yeah, it is almost impossible to differentiate them, because the family language is so strong now that it has sort of become a template instead of a language. Okay. Now, first of all, if you want to differentiate a... What the hell? Okay. I'm not sure if this... Okay, anyway. Now, first of all, if you want to differentiate between a Cayenne and a Macan, look at the cut line. Okay? So if you have the cut line here, then it means it's the Cayenne, because the Cayenne has a traditional bonnet, whereas the Macan has what is known as a clamshell hood that encapsulates the lights, and then it became really clean. The previous Cayenne facelift, you will be able to see a kink here. There is a kink here. So that would be how you differentiate them. Okay, so if you ask me if this is a good looking car, of course it is. It is a great looking car. Is it a great looking car? No, it is not. It is in fact very clean. A bit too clean, to be honest. A bit too subtle, to be honest. And that doesn't help the fact that there are so many Porsches on the roads now that you can just drive one by and nobody would notice you. Now that would not be a bad thing, but it also comes back to the question of, does this thing look 3 times or 4 times the price of an equivalent X5 or a Q7, an XC90, you know, the likes of it? But of course it's a Porsche. Okay, it has a totally different grade of interior quality. It has totally different levels of drivability and technology within the car. I've said this many times over the years. engineering a car like this or the Panamera takes more effort than making a small sports car like a Z4, you know, or even a Lotus. Yep. Now, of course, the most talked about thing about Porsches nowadays is the beautiful one-piece tail light that will soon become templatized again. Yes, they made a beautiful design in the Macan where they have a slim tail lamp and then they have a clean boot cover, which looks absolutely beautiful. And then from there, they apply the slim tail lamp into cars like the 911. Okay, or maybe it started with the 911 actually. It started with the 991 with the slim tail lamps, and then they put it into the Macan, and then it became every single car. So now the Cayenne, the Panamera, the Macan, they all will have this slim tail lamp, which looks really good. And then they went and connected the middle to house the Porsche word, which is a nice take as well. But then they apply this across the entire board as well. So now you have a small SUV, a big SUV, and a big luxury sedan, and then a sports car with the same front and back. I'm not sure if it's a good or bad thing. Okay, anyway, what else should we discover at the back here? Of course, it's a Porsche. It's not going to give you fake exhausts. Okay, let's take a look at the boot. You have, of course, a huge boot. This is, oh, the lights are beautiful. Okay, this is the boot of a Cayenne. Very practical, very functional. It's no different from the usual Audi or BMW and the likes of it. But however, I do find a problem with a little bit of quality here. So, which I pointed out in my initial Cayenne video that I shot in Greece. So it looks like they haven't changed anything. Look at that. Look at these little scratches over there. Can you see that? On this panel. That is because this plastic, this one here, is a lower quality, softer plastic than this one. This bit here, this guy here, alright, is hard and this is soft. So when you repeatedly do this, you're gonna have cuts over there. This is 100% gonna happen. Okay. Another thing that I don't really appreciate is that there are no rails running up here, so that for those who are used to Audis, you could have just pressed this. You could have just pressed this once to change the angle, and then it will glide onto another rail that glides this thing up so that it helps you to take out your stuff. So far, in terms of operational, how to operate this is no different from a regular CRV, right? So you will see that it does nothing when you do this except wobbling this part. Minor complaint, but this also shows a little bit of neglect in portraying the type of exclusivity a Porsche should have. Okay guys, what I mean just now by the Cayenne is look at how Audi does it. Okay, this quality of material is very high, hard plastic, and this one as well. And there is a rail that comes all the way in, so that sometimes you just want to take some stuffs. You just change the angle of this little bit so that it can come up the rail, and it is a very convenient manner to take things out of the boot. Okay, not only so, my Audi comes with internal rails where you can move these in and out, and that is what you call a premium car. Okay, look at that. Okay, the rail actually runs like that down here, and then it falls into place like that, and it holds itself. Mazda even has a better one. The CX-5, when you open the boot, this thing follows this and it goes up together. Then you can take whatever you like to take. Okay, so that's what I mean. So Porsche engineers, take note. We notice if you skip on certain things that you know you could, but you wouldn't. Alright? This again is another one. They could have finished this in metal, but it's in plastic. Small complaint because that is a high quality plastic. The third thing that I want to complain is something that I've complained again and again and again and again. Okay, beautifully crafted interior in terms of finishing. Oh, because it's big. Oh, there's only. Is there another one here? Okay, it doesn't really help. Will this do? I can't because I need to switch on the car first. I'm gonna need to let some light in order to do that. I guess I'm done with the exterior. Do I still need to go through the exterior? There's not much, right? The rims are new. This is the new design. Okay, and I don't think this rim looks good. This rim is not a good looking rim. This caliper is crazy huge. I'm going to show you the size of my palm next to the caliper. Look at the size of it. Alright, it's absolutely massive. I've never seen a caliper this big. Okay, and this is that new, I don't know what coating that reduces the brake dusts, and it has a mirror effect, which looks really good. Okay, in terms of stopping power, I felt that it could have been slightly better. Because the size of the caliper suggests that the stopping power will be really, really good. But as I test drove this, somehow I find it in need of a little bit better brakes. That's the armrest that I wanted to complain, which is not the first time I complain. This doesn't reflect Porsche levels of sophistication. You know, I would want to see an armrest with maybe a lid, compartments, and then pop-out cup holders and the likes of it. I don't appreciate cup holders like that in a car of this price. Other than that, I have zero complaints about this car because this car is just beautifully finished. Okay, it's comfortable inside here. The leather is fantastic. The red color seat belts look great. Everything looks great. A little bit clinical. I would say this new round of Porsche interior design is a little bit clinical. It's a bit Audi-ish, you know. Everything is square, straight, you know. Very, very German. But just like Germans do, very, very high quality. Okay. You have USB ports down here. There's a little bit of light there to help you see better. And then this is a, I presume, an ashtray. Okay? Yeah. Comfort with the vents over here, and you have a nice large gap here, so that it's rather comfortable for the middle passenger because this is a nice gap to have. Okay? And then the aircons on the B pillar. I can slot my feet in. There is ample room and headroom available. Yeah. And of course, there is the panoramic roof, which is wonderful, glorious. Okay? And that's the front cabin. Let's go to the front. Okay? Beautifully finished. The plastic, the qualities of the plastic is just too good. Alright? Let's come in here. You have sport pedals here, and they're not the organ type, but that's not a huge complaint. Okay, let's come into the cabin. This has got to be one of the most advanced looking infotainment system that is also at the same time one of the worst design in terms of software. In terms of usability, I'll give you an example. There are buttons littered across the screen. Of course, you'll be saying that, oh, this is logical for the left passenger, and this is for the right passenger or the driver. And then you have these red lines here to indicate on or off. Very good, very coherent, very consistent, right? And then you go into something else. You go into things like, say for example, just now we were here, right? certain controls are on the left, certain controls are on the right. Yes, because the graphics are in the middle, you need to show them, and it indicates activation with a red line below as well, which is rather okay. And then you have some over here. Basically, they will be littered around here to make way for the graphics in the middle. So that looks, maybe that is consistent. And then you come to things like this. Okay, there are times whereby you are using a tick instead of a red line below to indicate on or off or yes or no. They use a tick. And then at times it is a linear menu. All right. So it is rather inconsistent and it needs a lot of improvement. Basically, it needs an improvement from an ideological phase from the very, very start, because it is, honestly speaking, everywhere. The things are just everywhere. So I hope they can improve on this further on. All right. But other than that, the touchscreen is super responsive. The processors of this is brilliant. Let me show you how fast the processing speeds are. Now, by toggling this knob here actually changes what was being shown here. Okay? And let me show you how fast it processes. Can you see that? This is crazy. Very, very fast, very direct, and very crisp in terms of its operations. Okay, there's one thing I don't understand. You see, there's no air coming out from here now, even though this is activated, but there's no air here. So I do not know why. Maybe I need to pull it up a little bit, or how. Oh, there, I have a phone call. I'll continue later. Other than that, the controls in the car are all beautifully crafted. Okay, sometimes you might assume this is the volume button. You would have thought this is the volume button and turn it, but actually it's not. The volume button is this. When you operate this, you have to operate like that or like that, because the gear lever is on the way or in the way. Okay, but it feels really good doing it, and then you press on and off to activate the sound or not. This is haptic. Okay, so you have a feeling when you press it, but actually the entire control panel is being pushed. This feels great as well. Everything feels absolutely solid. And this thing that looks like metal, it used to be metal when this steering design first came out, but now it's plastic. You'll be able to hear it. It is actually, this is actually plastic now. Metal sounds like this. Oops. Anyway, other than that, the cabin is just wonderful, beautifully finished. Oh, the new window control buttons, they are very flat. There are no shapes or curves. So I find myself looking at it more than I should be. Okay, so yeah, there you go. This is a car that no other SUVs can out-handle it. In fact, not many sedans can out-handle it. And it drives great. It is a car that is beautifully made, very high-tech, and a lot of buttons still, drives extremely well, and you can U-turn like nobody's business. This is the new Cayenne, and do I think that it's worth $1 million? It is expensive, but like I said, there are things that are expensive, but you feel great after you bought it, and this is one of it. Okay, even though the design isn't that shouty, isn't that obvious, like look at me kind of design, but some people appreciate that. And if you own a Cayenne, I urge you to do more toge drives. This car really can do it. It is so good. Its handling is so good. And don't buy the base Cayenne. That 3-liter engine is rubbish. Okay, not rubbish for, if you put that engine into a BMW or an Audi or a Mercedes, then it is not rubbish. But if it is Porsche, that 3-liter engine that only makes 330 horsepower, and you already spend about 700,000 ringgit in the base Cayenne, you don't want to drive a 700 over 1,000 ringgit car on the highway, and then you get chased off the fast lane by those pesky little A45 AMGs. right? You don't want that. So when you are going for a Cayenne, just take out that extra 200,000 ringgit, tell your son to pay for his own studies in UK or US, and then you buy the Cayenne S. This 2.9, 440 horsepower, brilliant engine. Cheers.
Okay.
Recording. Can see outside. And you know what? There's no tire squeal. Right?
Yeah, it's super quiet.
No, normally, right, a car like that, it would have been making tire squeal already at this speed. A little bit. This is crazy.
Okay, now we do outside.
Okay. Easy. This is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.